Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into a topic that feels, well, a little like a minefield: modern American politics. It seems like everywhere you turn, whether it's on TV, social media, or even at the family dinner table, political conversations are getting more heated and less productive. We're often told we're more divided than ever, living in separate bubbles with completely different sets of facts. It can feel overwhelming and, honestly, pretty discouraging. But what if we took a step back from the shouting matches and tried to understand what's really going on? How did we get here? And more importantly, is there a way forward? Stick with me, because today we're going to try and untangle this complex web together, not to pick a side, but to gain some clarity. Let's start by looking at the landscape. One of the biggest shifts in recent decades is something political scientists call affective polarization. This is a fancy term for a simple idea. We don't just disagree with the other side on policy anymore. We actively dislike them. It has become less about "I think your tax plan is flawed" and more about "I think you're a bad person for supporting that plan." This shift from policy disagreement to personal animosity changes everything. It makes compromise feel like a betrayal and turns political opponents into enemies. Research from institutions like the Pew Research Center consistently shows that Republicans and Democrats view each other more and more unfavorably, using words like closed-minded, immoral, or even a threat to the nation. This isn't just about politicians in Washington. It's a sentiment that has trickled down into our everyday lives, making it harder to connect with people who hold different political views. So, what's fueling this fire? Well, our media landscape plays a huge role. Think about how we get our news compared to, say, 30 or 40 years ago. Back then, most Americans got their news from a few major broadcast networks and local newspapers. These sources, while not perfect, generally aimed to present information to a broad, ideologically diverse audience. Fast forward to today. We have a 24/7 news cycle with cable news channels and countless websites, blogs, and social media feeds, all competing for our attention. This has led to the rise of partisan media outlets that cater specifically to one side of the political spectrum. Instead of a shared public square, we have curated echo chambers. When you're only hearing information that confirms what you already believe, and you're constantly being told how wrong and dangerous the other side is, it's no wonder our divisions deepen. The algorithms on social media platforms further reinforce this by showing us more of what we already like and agree with, pushing us further into our respective corners. Another critical piece of the puzzle is the changing nature of our political parties. For a long time, both the Democratic and Republican parties were what you might call big tents. They contained a wide range of ideologies. You could find conservative Democrats, especially in the South, and liberal Republicans, particularly in the Northeast. This internal diversity meant that there was more ideological overlap between the parties, which made cross-party collaboration and compromise much more common. Over the past few decades, however, the parties have sorted themselves out ideologically. As political scientists have noted, the parties are now more internally unified and more distinct from one another than at any point in modern history. This ideological sorting means there are fewer moderates in the middle to bridge the gap. When everyone in your party thinks like you, and everyone in the other party seems radically different, the incentive to work together shrinks dramatically. It becomes a game of us versus them. Now, let's talk about the impact this has on governing. When polarization is this high, gridlock becomes the new normal. The legislative process, which was designed to be slow and deliberative, requiring compromise to function, grinds to a halt. We see this with everything from budget negotiations to judicial appointments. Simple, necessary tasks of governance become battlegrounds for partisan warfare. This creates a vicious cycle. Voters get frustrated with the lack of progress in Washington, which fuels their anger and distrust of the system and the other side. This frustration then empowers more extreme voices who promise to fight rather than compromise, and the cycle of polarization continues. It's a feedback loop that leaves many Americans feeling like their government is broken and unresponsive to their needs, which, in turn, erodes faith in our democratic institutions themselves. So, here's the million-dollar question. What can we do about it? It can feel hopeless, but there are things, both big and small, that can make a difference. On a systemic level, people are exploring ideas like electoral reform. Things like ranked choice voting, for example, are designed to reward candidates who can appeal to a broader base of voters, not just their party's most passionate wing. Reforming campaign finance laws to reduce the influence of money in politics is another area of focus, as is finding ways to combat misinformation and rebuild trust in quality journalism. These are huge, challenging tasks that require a lot of political will. But we don't have to wait for systemic change. The most powerful change can start with us, in our own communities and conversations. It begins with a commitment to step outside of our own bubbles. This means intentionally seeking out and listening to perspectives that are different from our own. It doesn't mean you have to agree with them, but it does mean listening with curiosity and empathy, trying to understand why someone holds a particular belief. This is incredibly difficult. Our brains are wired to defend our own views. But try to find common ground. Maybe you disagree on healthcare policy, but you both care deeply about your family's well-being. Start there. Focus on shared values rather than policy differences. Remember, the person in front of you is a person, not a political label. Let's try a little thought experiment. The next time you're about to have a political conversation, instead of starting with a statement, start with a question. Instead of saying, "Your position on this is wrong," try asking, "Can you help me understand what leads you to that conclusion?" This small shift can transform a debate into a dialogue. It signals that you're interested in understanding, not just winning. We can also make a conscious effort to diversify our media diet. If you typically watch one news channel, maybe spend 10 minutes reading an article from a source with a different perspective. Follow people on social media who you know you won't always agree with. It might be uncomfortable, but it's a crucial step in breaking down the caricatures we have of each other. Rebuilding the fabric of our society won't happen overnight, and it won't be easy. But it starts with individual choices to engage with one another with more grace, more curiosity, and more respect. To wrap things up, the state of our political discourse is challenging, no doubt about it. The forces of polarization, from our media to the structure of our parties, are powerful. But they are not insurmountable. Understanding these forces is the first step toward countering them. And while big-picture reforms are important, the most immediate impact we can have is in our own lives. By choosing dialogue over debate, empathy over anger, and connection over division, we can start to mend the frayed edges of our communities, one conversation at a time. It's a long road, but it's one we have to walk together. Thank you so much for watching and for engaging with this difficult topic. What are your thoughts on political polarization? Do you have any strategies for having more productive conversations? Let me know in the comments below. I read as many as I can. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more deep dives into the issues that shape our world. See you next time.